Hi everybody, this is Carrie with Creatively Carrie. I am going to show you today on today's sketchbook tutorial. We're going to talk a little bit about pen and ink. So one of the things that you may want to do with your sketchbooks after you've done some sketching is you may decide that you want to add a little bit of pizzazz to your drawings, or you want to make them a little more permanent. So you want to put ink on them, which you can totally do. You can also sketch with pens if you want to. It's kind of up to you. But again, we're going to talk about the different types of pens that you can do that with. Real quickly, I just wanted to start out with a traditional quill pen and a nib and ink. So it looks like something like this. Obviously this is your ink bottle. This is your pen, your quill pen holder, okay? And then this is your nib right down here. And the front top of a nib looks like that little drawing right there that I did. And what that means is this little metal piece has a hole in it, and the tip spreads apart when you put pressure on it, and that's what allows the ink to flow down the nib and to bright. It comes out onto the surface of your paper. Okay, so fun artistic way to create is with this kind of pen. You might probably find these under calligraphy pens, more to that lining of that side of the artistic world. Okay, but in today's world, some of us aren't really worried about looking at a quill pen, and it can be difficult sometimes to take that with you, especially if you're moving that tip around. It's very, the tip of your quill pen can break off or stick you even. I've had that happen before. So there's lots of pens out there that you can carry with you. And this particular pen brand that I have is called Zig. Okay, this is archival waterproof black ink in this little guy. Okay, and this is a 0.01 nib, which means that the little tip on there is not very big. It's really thin, so it's going to give you a very thin line when you're drawing with it. And then of course they go up from there in size. So this is a 0.05, and that looks like that nib right there is bigger. Okay, and then of course there's varying size that you can get. There's other brands out there called Micron pens. They're also archival waterproof ink. So you just kind of have to shop around, find what works for you. But for today's purposes, in my little tutorial, I am going to show you how I use my pens to draw in a sketchbook. Okay, so I'm just going to turn you guys, and I'm going to push you down to what I'm working on here. There we go. Awesome. Okay. Ooh, that might be a little too far. I'm going to put you back up just a bit. There we go. Okay. So what I did in my sketchbook was I just did a quick little sketch of a little hummingbird, and I'm going to take my 0.01 pen here, and I'm going to go over the pencil outline that I did. And again, you can use your pens just like you would your pencils for creating texture in your drawings. So in particular, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this my very fine pen here to kind of fill this lower part of the beak in, and I'm going to create a reflection in the eye, and then I'm just going to fill in the eye area. Okay, again, these pens can be used any way you like. The smaller the nib that you have, the more fine line details that you can get. So let me also, maybe I can show you on here. So this is my 0.01, and you can, that line right there is pretty darn thin. Doesn't really get any thinner than that, really. And then my 0.05 right next to it, you can see it's actually it's thicker, okay? And so depending on the surface of your paper and how much detail you want to get to, or how fine you want to keep it, you know, the tip is what you want to look out for. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to take this very fine, I'm going to create a little edge here, and then I'm going to start doing the feathers around the head. And I'm not making these continuous lines, I'm kind of making them soft so that that's exactly what they look like. They just look like little soft feathers, and they're layers here. And just in case you can't see that, I'll bring it a little bit closer to my camera. So you can kind of start to see the little layers of feathers there. Okay. Now, again, just like using your pencils, you're going to want to come in here, do some detail work. Okay. Around this eye area, it's really soft. It's actually no color actually around the eye. And then the feathers, of course, kind of go following that angle. I'm just going to keep that going. So when you let your ink dry, another fabulous thing about these is they are waterproof. And when they dry, you can take a little bit of a watercolor wash, which is just a very small amount of water and pigment, and you can color it in over the top, and your lines won't blur. Okay, so this is kind of really cool effect that you can do in your sketchbooks. Again, if you're kind of doing sketches and you like them, but you want to give them a little bit more of a little pizzazz, this is the way to do it. Make them kind of wake up a little bit. Again, I'm going to keep these kind of light. I don't want to make quite solid lines because feathers are going to look soft, so I want to kind of make them look a little bit more dotted. Okay. So, not too bad, not too bad. So I'm going to do a real quick finish drawing this out, kind of go over my lines here. Fill these in. Now for when you're doing pen and ink and you're wanting to keep an area on like the light side, or if you have, like, and for this guy, he has a white patch on his chest. I really don't want to add a lot of pen work there. I really just want to try to keep that as light as I possibly can. So I'm barely going to touch in a few areas, give just the indication that there's some things going on there, but I don't want to overdo it because I want that to stay looking like a white area. Like this will just be all of his little white feathers here. Okay. And then when it comes to this next area under here, got some really cool little feathers that I'm going to add a little bit more detail to now. I'm going to actually make these little fuzzy lines, that the little edge of the feathers, instead of making them like a solid loop. Because when feathers get smaller, they look more like a loop, but these are bigger feathers here. And I just want to start giving them a little bit more presence. Kind of also go back in here and give them a little bit more of some lines in here, so to show it a little bit more detail. Again, because they're bigger feathers. Okay. Awesome. All right. So just gonna kind of go over a couple of things that I mentioned earlier. You can do traditional pen and ink work with this type of pen and a bottle of ink. This actually comes as a set. It's made by Speedball. So if you wanted to look that up, you can purchase that online. And you can actually bring in some fun little things with doing a quill pen. Just remember, a quill pen isn't always user-friendly. It can be kind of a pain to cart around because you need to have something to carry it in, and then you got to watch for that little pointy end. And then, of course, if it ever gets bent, it's done for. You won't ever be able to use it again properly. All right, so I have another section here of the wing, and these are more solid feathers, and they have kind of just a curve to them instead of these little light feathery ends. So I'm going to start changing that up. I'm going to start making this look just a bit more like a traditional feather form. And then it starts to attach, so the veins of the wing start to show up more. Okay. So again, just different ways, different line work to show different areas of texture, different maybe areas of color even. And so down here, it starts to, once again, kind of get into these little light, feathery little guys. And then it transitions again one more time to like a light color. So I'm going to kind of just very carefully make an indication that there's some feathers here, but I don't want to overdo it. I want to keep that area light. And then on this back portion here, the feathers really get dense again, and they actually are almost a really dark brown. So I'm really going to fill in some texture here and try to make this a difference here so that you can see. All right. Very cool. Okay, so there's a couple of little things I want to just kind of fill in here. There is a little foot right there, and then there's a little foot right in here. So I'm just going to make the indication real quickly of some little little feet hanging there. Okay. Very cool. He turned out pretty good. Okay, I'm going to grab my watercolor palette. I'm going to be right back, so just so I can show you guys how this looks. Okay, so I'm just going to grab, there's like a green the top of his feathers here. So this ink is dry, remember. This is just very little touch of color that I'm going to bring in here. Anytime you have paints around, and you can add anything now beyond this. So like if you want to have a little bit of glitter, you know, you can always throw some little glitter in there, and you can always start to kind of dress them up, make them even a little bit more fancier. So this is a ruby throated, so I'm going to grab some red. And I'm going to come and I'm going to put some red right in here. Cool. I'm kind of back to this green, but it's also got a little bit of yellow in it. So I'm going to come down here and, yeah. All right. I'll bring that a little bit closer, kind of show you guys what you can do with your pen and ink in your sketchbooks. Cool. Well, that's it for me today, guys. Your tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions. You can always put questions down in the comments, and let me know if you'd like to see more, and we can go for there. Next Wednesday there will be another tutorial on sketchbooks, and this Friday will be a quick little painting tutorial. I also have watercolor classes coming up, and a workshop on how to paint your pet. So if you check me out on Eventbrite, if you look me up under Creatively Carrie, you'll see all of my events there, or my Facebook page. So, all right, guys, happy Wednesday. I'm so glad you were able to join me, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.